Hello guys, it's Obi, and today I wanted to show you how do you quickly, make hard surface models like I promised. How do you unwrap them and how do you texture them? So for example, if you pay attention to what I do have here, you can see that there's like a few metallic parts and there's already an outfit that I'm working on. So if you're curious how it looks like this. So I obviously made button. I made a little hook for this little tooth, and this is like some type of tooth, I would say, but it's metallic anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I also made this part, which should be this, and I made this part, which should be this. So you can see that it's all displaced. It's not in a proper location, and I did this because I wanted to bake it good. There's also one part here. So when you're working with hard surface models, so let's take a look at this, for example. You can see that they have pretty clean and sharp lines. Now, when I work with them, what I usually do is I just make a cube, for example, and then I make it like this. You could just, for example, with the other thing, this is example of hard surface model, right? You want to make something like this, right? And you want it to be like a emerald thingy or something for your model, right? And then you just, you can just play around with it, see what you make, and in any way you create something that you like. So I'm just playing around with it quickly, just showing you. So then you would obviously need to unwrap it, right? And I assume you know how to do it. Okay, let's put this out. I'll show you real quick I'll show you in my models because it's already done. And I just remember that I wanted to share this with you. So for example, this model, I already made UV, so I'll just, don't worry about this. I'll show you how you do it. So for example, with this, I'll move this way. So for example, with this part, which is like some kind of tooth, I don't know what else it is. If you click L on it, you can see it has these parts here. If you obviously don't have it. You want to go to edge mode, you click, you hold Alt and you left click somewhere, and so you can like split it in half. So when you split it in half, you go U, mark seam, and then you select the entire thing with clicking L, U, and then you unwrap it, and you get something that will cover this entire area. But since I want to save space, I made a single part, like every single one metal part that I could see on this image. So I showed you already. I made all of those parts, and then I joined them together, and then I unwrapped them all together. So I got something like this. But yours will not be this nice looking. Yours might be messy, but it's still going to work. It doesn't really matter. It's just when you put in more time and when you invest, more energy into learning and stuff, you'll be able to do better UV maps. There's also software like UV Rism that will help you with this. In any way, when I was happy, when I made all of them, you can see they're pretty separate, right? I didn't move them in place and so on because I made this button and I want to copy it over again. And now, since they're all in the same UV space, you see, I can select just one and move it around. You see like this, for example. And you can see that they all use the same UV map. So that's the point of, we just need to make one. So if we make one and we have it here in the UV space, we can use same texture for all of those marked ones. So instead of using like 100 megabytes of data, we'll just use like 5 megabytes. So it's like super important to optimize your models. So when you make them like this, what you want to do is you want to obviously open ZBrush. You can do it here in Blender too. If you just right click and you do subdivide, 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 you're gonna get something good. Or if you go into here and you go subdivision surface and you bump this up, you go simple and you bump it up, you're also gonna get pretty nice results. Oh boy, it's gonna lag. It's always better to do it in ZBrush. So I'll show you what I did in ZBrush quickly. It's on the other screen, so it's gonna take a moment for me to switch it over. Well, let me just see if I'm recording because I'm paranoid. Oh yeah, it is recording. Okay. Oops, not here. Okay. In any way, you want to import your metal, right? The ones you have, and then when you do, obviously make it polymesh 3D. You want to check if everything is good. If there's any twisted, if there's any flipped normals. Look at this mess, holy moly. The way you check if there's any messed up geometry is you go to here and you click face orientation. And if everything is blue, you're good. If there's a bit of red from the outside, then you just click A, mesh normals, recalculate outside. Or you just mark those parts that are red and you just do mesh normal flip and it just flips those. It's obviously going to be some red here in my case, but that part is inwards, so you cannot see it anyways. So it doesn't really matter. In any way, once you import it here, you want to obviously generate a high poly mesh model. So I want to go to ZRemesh, not guide, but ZRemodeler, and then what you do is you just add lines like this, and I'll explain you why. Take a look at this, for example. Okay, this model. Look, if I divide it, you see how much it moves. Now let's see what happens if I add this. See how it moves less. So the idea is to add these curves around every edge, you know, like every important edge that you want to keep, so it doesn't deform it completely. So for example here, the edges, you know, and you want to do it on all of your things, and then you want to bump up your model to around 1.5 million or so. You know, the way I explained how to do it in my previous videos, so you can easily follow those. In any way, once you're done with it, you import it into Substance Painter. This is Substance Painter 2023. And in it, okay, so for example, I imported it. Then you go to texture settings and you bake it. I also explained how you do this. And since it's metal, it needs to be black. So you obviously add black fill mask. So you just go here and you go to properties and you just make this black. And then if you want, you can also add white mask, like white fill layer, and you go to add the black mask to it, and you add generator to it. So for example, I added metal edge wear, and it allows, look, take a look at the UV here. You see these white parts, they just pop. See how nicely it pops here. That's why I did it. But you need to also add, you see, if I remove this paint mask, you can see that it also adds white to this. But if you click on your black mask, you can see that I put reflection to 1. That's like 100% reflection. So it's going to reflect everything you see. But if I just leave it as this, you see that this white layer, it has no reflection. Maybe I could just add a tiny bit of reflection to it, but nah. So for example, white is no reflection. So if obviously this part, like a hook, is white, it means it will not reflect and it's going to be completely white, and I don't want it. So I added like another paint layer and I painted over these parts that I wanted to be fully not transparent, reflective. So in any way, once you do that, you go to File, you export textures, and you export them wherever you want. This doesn't matter, I like default background, but you must export M as well. This is your environmental mask, and what it does, I'll explain to you real quick. So for example, if I open up the Outfit Studio and I import the OBJ, I already did this little part just to show you, but I want to make sure that you understand this. And Crimson Metal one. So it's obviously not perfect. You see, it's not rotated the way it's supposed to be. But I'm just showing you this so you know. You know. Oops. You go to properties, and first things first, you want to make sure that it's environmental map. If it's not environment map, it's going to not reflect pretty much. So you go to textures, and you want to turn those textures you made, those PNGs. Oops, not here. Where is it? For me, it was here. Okay, so me from the future, guys. I wanted to tell you something here in addition to these textures. So whatever is black in diffuse mask, that is _D mask map, sorry, not mask map, it will reflect as black. And in environmental map, you know, environmental masking map or _M, everything that is white will be reflected and everything that is black will not be reflected. So if you have something white in an environmental mask and, for example, a red in diffuse map, it will reflect in red color. So if you have it in black, it will reflect cube map perfectly. So you always keep metal textures black. Thank you. So you get these maps. You want to import them into Photoshop, export them as DDS, and export them as BC7 Alpha Plus. So export it like this. File, save as DDS, so for example Metal M, and you just make sure it's BC7 Color Plus Alpha, and you do it on all of them. So once you do it on all of them, you simply import it in your, I have it on my screen. Oops, sorry. Data, textures, I already did it just so you see it. So for example, I moved it here. So in here, you can see the Metal D, Metal N, Metal M. So you want to do is this, and then you add like a little backlash. It's Alt-GR plus Q for me, but my keyboard is not English one, so for you it might be different. And then you just load all of this. You load in your, you load in your normal map, and this is environmental mask, it's M. You see, I just changed the name because I know how I name them. And you need a cube map for it as well. And with cube maps, you can get them from Nexus, but for example, I got these ones. I think these are like Ajiharus. I'm sorry if I butchered his name, but you see there's plenty of them. So I got this Chrome 2 one because it's the one I like the most. You can also use dynamic ones. It's completely up to you. So for example, this is the one I want, and I move it here. Now, it's not going to reflect yet. Why? I'll explain in a moment. But I want to show you something before it. Actually, I'll show you this now. So export it as NIF, and you want to export it wherever your metal is. So I saved it as CR. You see, now I'm going to navigate there again. I'm sorry for the clicking and noises, but I'm trying to, be as informative as I can in the shortest time possible. And it's not always really possible. So, okay, so I loaded it here. And first things first is we need to make it reflective. So you want to make sure that you can click on it and you go to PS3 shapes, PS lighting shade property. And in here, you got to make sure Skyrim shader type is environmental map. You already did this in Outfit Studio. And then you go to shader flags 1. You click on it, you double click on it, and in the side there's going to be a little arrow. So click environmental map. Once you do that, you're going to get a new thing on the bottom that says environmental map scale. You can put this to 2 or 3, whatever you like, and you go file save. So now when you load the same NIF in Outfit Studio, you're going to see that it actually has reflections. Ta-da, you see, reflections. But for you, you're probably going to rotate them properly, and So for example, I want to show you one more thing. I'll switch to this so I don't get flagged on YouTube. Okay, so let's say that you have this part here in the pelvis area. So the problem is, you don't do this, but I'll just show you something. So for example, it has many bones attached to it. Oh, did the wrong thing, sorry. So for example, it has a bit of this bone, a bit of this bone. Imagine it being left, right, bone, pelvis and stuff. So you see, the problem is, since it's hard surface material, you don't want it to bend. But if it's in between of here, in the pelvis area, it's going to have effect of right leg and left leg. And as those legs move, they will bend and twist this object. So what you want to do is you want to tie this object to one bone. Now, the way to do it is if you want it in pelvis area, that means you select your obviously object here. You go to bones and you, for example, this is left leg, and you hold Alt and you remove everything from it. And then you do it here as well. And you make sure that it's only, for example, only one that's left is like, I don't know, pelvis or something here. So that means that when the pelvis moves, and you make it all red, you make it full red. Because red is the color with the most influence in weighting world. So you make it all red, so it moves with that. And I don't know if there's anything else I would like to show you, but I think that's pretty much it. So once you do textures, you do high poly model, you can go back here, and you can just make many of these. You just click L and you shift the D it, to location. Same with all of the other ones. That's pretty much how you do hard surface materials. I hope this helps. But you still got to learn how to model. You see, these are all pretty simple shapes. You can make it out of cubes and stuff. You can make circles. It's pretty simple. I don't want to get into, how do you model it, but I want to explain the logic behind it so it's easier for you to follow. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.